Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
All right, man. Yeah, we kind of just jumped right into it. Thanks again for coming on here.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I'm excited for this. But Ghost Fit, man. Tell me about Ghost Fit.
Man, it's been a journey. So I started Ghost Fit in 2017. Gosh, there's a lot of backstory behind it. I'll kind of give you like a condensed version. So,
Bro, give me the long version.
Long version. Got it. Okay.
Whatever you want.
So like I said, so I'm from Chisago Lakes, a very small town. Like you said, you know, we played against each other in football. You have to understand. So the city that I come from is about 3,500 people. Our high school is made up of seven different towns, right? So seven different towns come together and form our one high school. And there's about 1,100 people in our high school, you know, so there's not very many people from each town that go to the high school. Anyways, started playing football early on, third, fourth grade, something like that. Started doing really well in football. You know, my freshman year of high school was playing varsity. But let me kind of back it up and say once again, you know, it's a very small town. Obviously, there's a lot of ego that goes on with that, those sorts of things. You know, you have the upperclassmen, you know, saying a lot of things. You know, you got girls, you got, right? A lot comes to you without really being prepared for it, right? In my freshman year of college, I'm at the University of Minnesota playing football. And like I said, you know, come from a small school in high school, I have all these expectations. Mentally, you know, I wasn't prepared for this moment, right? There's, you know, you go from, like I said, a very small school to something that, you know, you have media coverage, you have guys that are literally playing in the league, you got old NFL alumni coming back, you have media coverage. I mean, you have so much that you are never, I was never, you know, accustomed to. And then you kind of just get thrown into the fire, right? So my maturity at the time, you know, was definitely not of someone that was in the position that I was in. So, you know, going in, I was like, you know what, you know, I'll play, you know, 3-4 years, you know, go to the league, right? I had all these dreams and ambitions, but, you know, I didn't have the work ethic to go with it. And that's just the reality of it, right? I was an elite, I would say, high school football player. But I wasn't playing against the best talent, or I didn't have to work as hard as, you know, these other kids may have had to because of, you know, the district and, you know, the school that I, you know, came up with. And so after my first year, you know, I started making up all these excuses, you know, football isn't for me, this and that, right? Really make an excuse for me mentally not being tough enough to kind of handle the adversity that I was going through, from kind of being a starter for 4 years in high school to being the bottom of the barrel, you know, in college. So I ended up quitting what is this? This would have been the end of my freshman year. So it was after spring ball. So I got to the University of Minnesota in the summer of 2014 in June, and I ended up quitting in May of 2015. So I was there for about like 11 months.
Okay.
I ended up quitting football, right? Like I said, I basically made up a ton of excuses. You know, the next year I was just average, you know, student enrollee at the University of Minnesota. And the thing about football and myself at the time is a lot of my like ideals, like who I was, you know, what made me, you know, Josh Parks, was wrapped up into football. So when I quit football, you know, my identity, the person who I was, the promises I made to my friends and family, like all that was gone now, right? So, you know, a literal moment of looking yourself in the mirror, you're like, who the fuck am I now, right? And you know, I'm glad that I had that, you know, thought process, because now looking back at it, especially talking with other, you know, former athletes, everyone has this sort of feeling, right? Because you've been doing this for such a long time, you have an attachment to this game, the sport, whatever it is. You know, I'm sure that it goes with other industries as well. But yeah, you know, I looked at myself and I'm like, man, this, for the past 12 years, like, this is who I was. You know, I'm so used to having the team camaraderie. I'm so used to having the schedule, right? I'm so used to people perceiving me in a certain way. Like, now I'm no longer that person. You know, and it led to a lot of mental health, you know, concerns with me. The biggest thing was anxiety, right? That second year being at the University of Minnesota, not playing sports, I ended up quitting all my classes. I was drinking all the time. Started smoking some weed. Like, I was just like going down this rabbit hole of feeling bad for myself, not knowing like where I fit in anymore, because I kind of lost that passion of who I was and what I did for my entire life. And after about 6 months, I was, like I said, I was on anti-anxiety pills, just a bunch of different sort of remedies to try to get myself back into someone that could, help society in some sort of way. So I became a manager at Pizza Hut right down the road, doing all these like little ins and outs sort of things. And, one day, I called my mom and I'm like, hey mom, like I'm flushing these pills down the toilet. Like they just make me feel like a zombie. Like I just need to like stop feeling bad for myself, stop sulking, and sort of get back into, who I am. And really what it came down to is I need to start working out again. I need to start focusing on school, right? Just doing like the little fundamental things that, a person my age should be doing. So finally, that winter of my sophomore year, started working out again, started reading a lot more, started just like figuring out what anxiety was and like what I was feeling, right? This is the first time I had ever had like the sensation of anxiety or like mental like doubting, myself. So I was really trying to dive in, figuring out like what all this meant and like how to like understand it, right? So I started working out, and my main goal at this point was like, all right, I'm going to be, like a Gymshark model athlete. I'm going to become like an elite athlete, like whatever, I really wanted like on that train, you know what I mean? Then during that time, like that was really popping off. Like so many people were kind of aspiring to be that. So
me included.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I started an Instagram page, and it was like Josh Parks Fitness or something like that. And started, working out on there. And after like 3-4 months, I had some companies start sending me apparel. Hey man, will you try this on? Will you post it for us? We'll repost you. Here's a discount code, right? All the sort of, natural things that come with that. And I did that. And there's one company specifically, and they're actually still a company, so I won't mention their name. But it was a Canadian company, and they sent me this shirt, and it was just an average basic shirt, right? I mean, the thing that I realized, and I think this is kind of what helped me with my journey, is that 9 times out of 10, if you take the logo off of someone's apparel and you put it side by side with all your other favorite pieces, they all kind of look the same. And when this company sent me the shirt, it was like a $30 or $35 shirt that I had to personally pay for. They didn't actually ship it out for free. And I remember telling my girlfriend at the time, I'm like, this shit sucks. Like, this is not a good shirt. It's expensive. Like, and then also on the flip side, I think this is why I was so upset as well. They told me that they were going to repost me and like put me like on their website and their social media and stuff. And they didn't do any of that. They basically, once I bought the shirt, they didn't respond to me ever again.
Fuckers.
Right. Yeah.
Damn.
I was pissed off to no belief, right? I tell my girlfriend this, and she's like, why don't you just start your own company? And I was like, what do you mean start my own company? She's like, just make your own shirt. She's like, you obviously don't like this, right? She's like, why don't you just start your own stuff? And for me, like, I've always been a curious person, right? Like I said, even with anxiety, like my whole goal was to like focus and figure out like what anxiety was and learn about it, right? I've always had that sort of like intuition with things I didn't know, like how do I dive into it? How do I learn about it? Like, how do I become like as educated as possible? And that's what I do with clothing as well. So I was like, okay, one, I don't know about manufacturing. I don't know about prices. I don't know about styles. I don't know about fabrics. Like, I don't know about, anything, right? Supply chain. And so for that first 6 months of 2016, that's really all I was focused on. What is clothes basically, right? Like, how do you break it down from fabric to get it into the consumer's hands? And it's just a lot of YouTube. It was a lot of asking questions, finding people in the industry that I could kind of figure out what they knew about clothing and manufacturing and all that kind of stuff. And it was August 30th of 2017. We finally launched, our first product. I think we had three products. We had 3 shirts. It was a black, white, and olive green shirt. And let me tell you, I mean, they were fucking horrible. they were awful. but we started with that, and kind of the rest was history. We've been in business now for almost going on to 4 years this year. Really started as an e-commerce company, right?
Mhm.
Just selling our apparel online. And, I'm sure that we'll dive into this more, but, our business strategy and plan has, changed, a lot from that. I mean, we still do sell online, but we do a lot more stuff in terms of our apparel now. So,
Like what sort of stuff?
yeah. So, I'll tell you another story. So my senior year of college, let me tell you this. So after my second year at the University of Minnesota, my roommate Jacques Pera, he was actually the backup quarterback with the Gophers. He ended
Mhm.
up transferring to St. Thomas. He saw kind of like what I was going through, saw that I wasn't playing football anymore. He's like, "Hey Josh, you got to come talk to Coach Crusoe," which is the head football coach at St. Thomas. End up going to talk with him right when I left. I'm like, all right, I'm going to St. Thomas. Like, I need to start playing football again. Like, I just need to get back on my shit. I need to stop feeling bad for myself. I learned a big lesson at my time at the University of Minnesota, but I can either feel bad for myself forever, or I can just, move on from it,
Mhm.
and continue to do what I love. Right. So I ended up going to University of St. Thomas, where I graduated, after 4 years. But my senior year there, we were about a year and a half into the business, and we had like the sports clubs, right? So the weightlifting club, we had the what other clubs was it? There's a few other clubs that were reaching out to us. Hey, can you make us shirts for our
Mhm.
club? So yep, sure. And what I realized is that it was such a different dynamic, right? So when you sell apparel online, you don't really get to understand and know the customer as well as you do if you were actually to meet them in person.
Mhm.
So working with these, companies, I was able to figure out exactly what they needed. I was able to figure out like their business plan, like who they were as people, like really create a really special bond. Not saying that you can't do that with e-commerce, you definitely can, but it's just in a different way. And I was like, wow, like I really like this aspect of business. So, once I graduated, that was really, really what I focused on. Like I said, we still do have e-commerce, and that's still something that, is very, beneficial for us. But we now work with about 40 different companies, from fitness centers to yoga studios to dance studios. We have a couple construction companies. We have car dealerships. We have banks, and we provide apparel for them. So basically what we do is we leverage our manufacturer, and we're able to, create a high quality, piece of apparel for them, at cost that, you wouldn't be able to get, if you were to buy it online.
Mhm.
So that's kind of one section of our business that we added. And another section is kind of like the influencer side. So like I said, I wanted to become an influencer.
Mhm.
So I kind of understood that, but we sort of took it to the next level. So, a lot of my connections that I had at the University of Minnesota sort of got me a foot into the NFL. So there are about 8 NFL players that we currently work with. You might have heard of like Trey Lance,
Yep.
quarterback out
I
of
saw that actually. I was gonna ask you about that.
yeah, quarterback out of NDSU. We're working with him. There's a few other NFL players that we're working with as well. There's one that I asked him if I could talk about him on this podcast, but he said no. But we're actually making an entire product line for him
Another guy.
right now. Yep, another guy. So that's super exciting.
Can you
And
say what team he's on?
he just got traded to the Falcons actually, so that might
Okay.
be it.
I
But
haven't
yeah,
seen
man,
any. I'll have to dive into it.
it's been an experience. I always told myself that I was going to be in the NFL one day, and I guess
Mhm.
this is kind of fulfilling that.
But you never know, and it really is like you're still around it. You are obviously still interacting with these guys, and maybe this is more sustainable. You never know. I mean, a career is what?
Right.
How long? Some guys
Yep.
just a few years, if they even make it there,
30
obviously.
years. Yeah,
Yeah, and maybe now you're going to be there for the next 30 years,
exactly. That's a
dealing with
goal.
guys coming up. And the Trey Lance one, that one's got to be exciting because obviously he's just getting drafted, but in a few
Yeah.
days here, right?
Yeah. So kind of how the way that happened, and I think this is sort of like the illusion of business, right? Like, especially for me, I guess, like I thought like once you get to a certain point, right? So like you get a guy like Trey Lance or whoever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
KJ Hamler, who actually plays for Denver Broncos. He was a standout wide receiver at Penn State. We're working with him as well. Like I thought, like once you get a guy like that, like everyone's gonna start flocking to you, right? Like that's
Yeah.
just not the way that it works. Like business, especially entrepreneurship and like stuff that we're doing, where it's very like sporadic in terms of who you get and how you get them. It's really just like the same old shit, like DMing people,
Mm-hmm.
finding like, connections that they have with people that you have. Like there's not like really a science to it. You know what I mean? It's more of just like a hustle.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, with Trey Lance, so probably about 2 years ago, we're working with this company called Game Face, owned by DaVinci. Basically, what they do is they train athletes, right? They do a lot of combine prep, a lot of high school work, college, professional, athlete work, and they're out in Maple Grove, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And we got hooked up with him through another guy that played in the league, Cedric Thompson, who I played football with at the University of Minnesota. And anyways, started working with DaVinci at Game Face. And he's like name dropping all these names, blah blah. Anyways, 2 years later, probably 6 months ago, he goes, we're working with Trey Lance, we're working with this guy. And to be honest, I didn't know who these guys were at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what we were doing with the Game Face is, like I said, we were creating apparel for them. So they were buying our premium joggers, which we just came up with our version 2 if you guys are interested. But anyways,
Check them out.
we were providing joggers for them with their logos on it. And all of a sudden I see Trey Lance, he's wearing our joggers, and I'm like, no fucking way. Like, you just don't expect that, right?
Yeah.
And I had never talked to him before. So anyways, that happens, and I'm like, that's sweet. Hopefully, one day he like either tags us or something like that. And so the guy that I said that we're working with, that I can't disclose right now, he's working down at Exos in Florida with all these, new going to be rookies.
Mm-hmm.
And
in the
I'm
NFL,
like,
right?
Right, in the NFL, yep. And he tells me, he's like, yeah, Trey Lance is down here. Jalen Waddle, who's a wide receiver for Alabama. Nico Collins, he's a wide receiver for Michigan. And so he's telling me, all these guys down here. And so I'm like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you guys like all just a big ass care package, like all those guys down there. I'm gonna send you guys all apparel for free. Try it on, this and that. Send them down, free apparel. And the guys get back to me. They're like, thanks for sending us this. This is dope. And then, I reach out to the head trainer there, Ross, and I'm like, hey, is there a way that you can give me Trey Lance's number? Like, I need to talk to this cat. This dude is a good dude. He's from actually Minnesota. So, there's mutual connections that I know with him. End up getting his number, reach out to him, me and him get on a FaceTime. And just like a very just like genuine, like natural conversation. And I was like, hey man, like, can we repost your stuff, can we tag you, this and that? And he's like, of course, like, do it. So that's just really like how that kind of stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very like natural, spontaneous thing. And I think the biggest thing was like us like not pushing it, right? Like we could have saw the picture right away and was DMing him and like, but you really just have to be like natural about it. I mean, especially with athletes or anyone that's busy, the worst thing you want to do is just spam them with messages and emails and this and that. I'm sure that you're used to that as well.
Yeah, you don't want to be a nuisance to them.
Mm-hmm.
And like, obviously that's going to be negative, especially with this. For myself, I'm asking people kind of like I did with you, either I know about this person or maybe I've met them already, or someone else tells me about them. I'm just like, hey, would you be interested in this? Let me know. I try to give them a description of what I'm doing, but I also try not to keep it too long. So it's not just like I'm sending them multiple paragraphs. Like, do you think what I sent you was long?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay. So even that one, I remember I was like, I don't know, this might be a little too long here, but I want to give them a good idea of what's going on and kind of the intent of what I'm doing. And but without giving too much and just being like, hey, if you're interested, let me know whenever you get a chance.
I mean, the thing that I really liked about yours too is that it was like it just felt like we were having a conversation, right? It didn't seem like salesy. I think that's the biggest thing. Like once it feels salesy,
Yeah.
then like, you start reading it and you're like, all right, like forget about this. But when it's just like very natural and it's like, hey, I have this podcast, I want you on this and that, like dope, like that sounds fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you came on again. And I've said it like
Definitely.
3 times now. And it's really funny. This is completely off topic, but it's funny to me because I can specifically remember in film the week before we played you, like junior year of high school. Because I played corner, so I was on defense. Them mentioning your name. And I've like remembered that for a while now, like years, obviously, since then. So it's just really funny now to come around however many years later. I got a fucking podcast, you're running a business, and we're doing the show. But
Man, it's crazy how things work, huh?
it really is. But
It is.
so Trey Lance is from Minnesota. I didn't even know that myself.
Yeah, he's from, gosh, I don't want to butcher it. I think it's Alexandria.
Okay.
So actually the quarterback at St. Thomas when I was there my freshman year, even though I was like technically a junior, I think. Yeah. He played with, actually, I don't think they played together. I think Trey Lance was like in 8th grade when Alex, the quarterback at the time, was a senior. So he knew. So when I was talking with Trey, I'm like, yeah, I know, Alex Fensky. And he's like, oh yeah, that's my boy. Like everyone, wanted to be like Alex. And it's crazy that Trey Lance is saying everyone wanted to be like Alex, which Alex was a Division III quarterback. You know what I mean? And Trey Lance is about to be a top 10, draft pick. So just a humble dude. And then actually another player at St. Thomas who he's a senior this year.
Yeah.
They're like best friends, I guess. I just figured that out like 2 days ago. I was over at their place. So it's just a small world, you know what I mean? Just a really humble dude that you would, just from the looks of it, like, it's just kind of crazy to see, that kind of talent come from a place like Minnesota. Yes, and I just feel like Minnesota doesn't really like publicize like the people that we have here, you know what I mean? Like, place like California, Florida, Texas would. So it still is kind of like surreal, like seeing those kind of guys come from this area.
Yeah, people just don't know about it as much. And you really realize that going somewhere else. People here just don't even know what Minnesota's like at all.
No, they just think it's freezing.
They think it's freezing and they think it's Iowa. So they think
pretty damn close.
That's, I mean, in southern Minnesota is like Iowa, but then obviously Minneapolis is, Twin Cities areas is, like you said, a couple million people. And then northern Minnesota is way different and foresty, and there's some elevation and shit up by Duluth. Like, but yeah, people literally think it's just farms, which again, some parts of it are, but not the whole thing.
I was gonna say the crazy thing is, especially like so Minneapolis is like 45 minutes south of where I'm from. Literally, like you're in Minneapolis, you drive 20 minutes north, like you're not in any city. You drive another 20 minutes and it's just like all cornfield. Like it just changes so quickly, which is it's unique. I feel like there's not many places like that.
Yeah, I forget who it was. I was actually just speaking with someone about that as well. Just like I couldn't remember the word then, and I can't remember it now either. But like the environment, because there's like the farmland comes from the south, from like Iowa, and then like the elevation and the forest is coming north from like Duluth. Like Minnesota has like 3 different environments all in one, and they all just kind of slowly converge into the middle of the state. So it is unique, I guess. It's a dope state. I always wanted to move away growing up, but I definitely do miss it, certain aspects of it. And, lake life, of course, and summers there and everything. Summers here are great too, but the seasons there and like the hype of like, oh, we're getting out of winter, I almost miss that, the excitement. It just like gives another thing to be like happy about. It's
like an event, you know what I mean? Like
it really is.
What's the craziest thing about it, and I think people from the Midwest like wouldn't understand this, is okay, so like if say it's the middle of summertime in Minnesota, and it's 50 degrees, 40 degrees, right? Like that's cold, right? But once you come out of a winter and it's been like -20, -30, once you get 30 degrees, people are literally in shorts and t-shirts. Like people are excited. It feels warm. Like you start hearing the water running down the streets. Like you know summer's right around the corner. Like that's the craziest feeling ever.
You get a little bit of warmth from the sun. Your skin doesn't hurt to be outside.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to worry about windburn. Like it's wild.
Oh, that's funny. Minnesota shit for sure. But so who was the first guy that you got that kind of opened the door? Was it Trey Lance for all these other guys in the league who are coming up about to be in the league? Or is this the one you can't say?
Yeah, I can't really say him. I, no, I would probably have to say Cedric Thompson.
Okay.
I would say both of them actually, Cedric and the other cat. So Cedric, like I said, he played at the University of Minnesota with me,
Mhm.
and gosh, it must have been 2 years after I started the business. Another guy named Marcus, who played at the University as well of Minnesota, he became a strength coach. So when I was at St. Thomas, I gave Marcus one of our first ever hoodies.
Mhm.
And Marcus was strength coach at St. Thomas, but then he also worked for Deventry at Game Face. And while he was at Game Face with Deventry, Cedric was training at Game Face because, like I said, he was, going into the league, off-season workouts. Cedric had saw our sweatshirt that Marcus was wearing at the time, and Cedric wanted to get into apparel.
Mhm.
And he's like, bro, where'd you get that from? And he's like, Josh. He's like, Josh who? He's like, Josh Parks. He's like, oh shit, really? He's like, yeah. So Cedric had reached out to me, and let me let you know as well. So I was a freshman when Cedric was a senior, so I don't really know Cedric that well. Like we weren't
Mhm.
very close by any means. Except on game day though, so he was number 2 and I was like number 138, which 138 is at the end basically.
What do you mean by that?
So the way that the locker system worked, right? So if you were number 24, you would have the 24th locker, right?
Okay.
And so Cedric was number 2 and I was number 138. So we had one person in between us, which was KJ May, if you've heard of him, little wide receiver from the university. And anyway, so on game day, if you've seen the inside of the Gophers locker room, it's like a big football, right?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So me and Cedric were always like right next to each other during game day, but like I didn't really talk to him or like associate myself with him. Obviously I was a freshman, barely hanging on. But anyway, so after kind of all that goes down, he sees the hoodie, he reaches out to me and he's like, hey man, like I'm trying to get into this apparel game. Can you help me?
Mhm.
And after that, like we talk on like a daily basis now. Like that's my guy. And obviously he's introduced me to a few other NFL guys. Just kind of helped me get my name out.
Yeah.
Just working with him, a brand that people know, not just personally, but from like a clothing brand as well. So he's obviously helped a lot. And then the other guy who I hate, the thing that I hate the most is like I feel like people like try to hype it up like, oh, I can't say this name. Like
Yeah.
it sounds so like, what's the word?
Exclusive.
Like you're trying to be secretive. Yeah, you're trying to be exclusive, but it's like, bro, like that shouldn't be like it. The only reason why I'm not saying it is because he doesn't want me to say it.
Yeah, of course. Respect that.
But the thing is, it just seems like, I don't know. I just feel like so many people try to hype things up. And then when they finally say it, it's like, oh, that's not even like a big deal. It's, I mean, I get the strategy behind it. Like, I'm not trying to do that, but it's just like cringe to me when people always try to do that, like on YouTube and shit. It's like, all right, just tell me.
You might not be trying to do it, but it's working because I was just gonna say, one day we're gonna figure out who this other guy is, and
we will. Yeah,
I'm curious. At the end of the month.
Yeah.
Is it because you're doing a whole line with him? You said, right?
Yeah, we're doing a whole line with him, and so he wants to like do like a big unveiling of it.
Yeah.
So.
It just keeps coming up more.
Yeah. It'll be fun though. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. I'll be paying attention. That's for sure.
Awesome, man.
So yeah, dude, that whole NFL thing has got to be really exciting for you.
It is. I never really thought about when I first started the company. It was never about like reaching a certain demographic or this and that. It was really just making apparel that I loved. Like I said, the story really came from me hating the shit that was sent to me.
Yeah.
But I think just like anything else, like when you align yourself with the things that you really care about, like those true events are going to naturally occur, right? So like naturally, like I have been a football player, been around that realm, so naturally that was going to somehow intersect with what I was doing. And I think as long as like you don't force it and you take the course how it's kind of presented to you, those like opportunities will, arise, and you just have to figure out how to take advantage of them.
Yeah, it's a great mindset. So I think that as well too. Obviously, like you can see it. What is the saying? Hindsight's 2020. Like you can see how it all connects when you look back. Like, oh yeah, obviously that would have happened. But when you're
Yeah.
going through it, it's like shit. I don't know what's gonna happen. You can't really see it. That's always interesting. A lot of people I talk to think that same way, have those same experiences. Just kind of letting things, trusting themselves, I guess, and the people they know and the surroundings in their life to guide them in a way that I guess is successful for their own goals, kind of, not trying to, like you're saying, not trying to force something, not trying to force to do something with somebody, just kind of figure out what you want to do, how you want to do it, how you feel about whatever it is you're doing, and then just kind of go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you always hear the quote, don't do it for, money, or I forget exactly what it is. Like, just do like what you're passionate about rather than like chasing money. And it sounds cliche, but I think the importance behind that is, like you said, it's sometimes hard to see the vision or like what's going to happen in the next 5 years, right? So if you're chasing something that's just physical and materialistic, if you don't get that one day, that passion is going to lose, right? Like you won't have that burning fire to continue to go. But when you do something that you're extremely passionate about, you're, instead of chasing something physical, right, you're chasing that passion, which is to provide apparel to whatever that passion is of yours. Is really a mindset of what you're looking for, rather than I need this specific thing, you know what I mean? And it constantly changes for me, right? At first, the passion was, let's start this business. Then it's, all right, let's make something that's sustainable. Then it's, right, it's continuously evolving, and the stakes get higher and higher as you continue to grow. And I think that's what's really cool about it, is like I said, I was never even thinking about getting into the NFL. But then the opportunity arises, right? When I first started the business, if that's all I was focused on, I wouldn't have been able to build that foundation, you know what I mean? Of, finding manufacturers and this and that, and really creating something that was solid that I could stand on, so that this would actually be possible.
Yeah. If you didn't just focus on making a good product, you probably would have had the opportunity maybe come along and just would have slipped through your fingers.
Exactly.
It kind of goes along with the thing that I came to a conclusion of for myself, and I've spoken about on here a little bit. It's just totally lost my train of thought there. What were you just saying? What did you just say?
Basically just focusing on, building that foundation, so that, different opportunities could arise.
I hate when this happens.
That's a part of it.
Right.
I mean, that's a reality of, how shit goes, I mean, even in the business world, right? Like, you think you're going to go one way, and it's like, shit. Change,
exactly.
Change course.
It's funny because I could like feel it coming as I was about to say. I was like, wait, what was I just going to say?
That's a roller coaster right there.
It'll come back to me maybe. But so do you have a game plan with this NFL thing, or do you just kind of, like we're talking about right now, just going with kind of whatever comes up as it comes? Make a decision, pivot short term, month out, drop a new line maybe with someone? Or do you have, like, now that you are kind of dealing with these guys, more of a long-term vision of what I want to do with these guys and apparel?
Right. So definitely, I mean, there's different sort of like steps and ways that I look at like every opportunity. And like I said, it's pretty new to us right now, like working with these guys. I mean, it's really only been about 6 months. So I think there's two things that I really look at. One is it sustainable, right? Because just because something sounds cool and looks cool doesn't mean that it's going to be the best business decision. So that's kind of like what I'm focusing on right now. Like, what opportunity are these opportunities actually bringing us, right? Like, are we just sending out a bunch of free shit and not getting anything in return, and we're just going to dump a bunch of money into this and nothing's going to happen? So that was kind of like my first strategy, to figure out kind of what is working, what isn't. And I realized that it is, right? Like, these guys truly like our stuff, where, to be transparent, we are making money from it, because when these guys repost us, people are buying more of our products. We're getting more followers. So it's like, all right, this is actually working. Now it's like, how can we take advantage of this to the best of our ability? So, one thing that we're going to be looking for this year is like signing athletes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, basically reaching out to them, here's a contract, we want you to post, this amount of photos on your story, on your actual feed, tag us in this and this, and this is how much we'll pay you basically. Just because we see that is a formula that works, and they're people, they're athletes that align with who we are as a company. So that's one side of it, right? So actually signing athletes to contracts. And then, yeah, I think it opens the doors for other athletes to be like, hey, like Ghost Fit is the plug. Like this is, if we want high-end, apparel
Mm-hmm.
that we want to, sell to, family and followers, like we have to go to Ghost Fit, right? And I think that this is starting to open the door for that, where, guys are going to be able to gain trust in us.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that you can never undermine is your network, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you have a group of guys that trust you, they're going to refer you to other people. They're going to give you contacts that would be probably pretty difficult to obtain if you didn't have those connections. So that's one thing I always try to leverage, our contacts within the NFL. And if it works out for guys, it does, awesome. If not, then that's part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, at first it probably kind of like what you're saying wasn't, we got one guy, now everyone just falls in line, and now we got a bunch of players. But it does, I'm picturing it, at least myself right now, seem like once you have a group of people who all actually trust you and actually do like the brand, actually do like the apparel, actually will just speak about it naturally at a high level, then it does seem like guys will kind of come afterwards and just fall in line and be like, oh, you like that? You had a good experience with them. Like, let me see what maybe I could do with them. Or if you just reach out to them, they'd be like, oh, I heard about this through so-and-so. I trust him. I'm going to trust you, you know? Is that kind
Right.
of what you're
So, I
seeing?
mean, yeah, I mean, you do see that a little bit. The thing about it is that everything is just a long ass process. Like
Yeah.
just to be real about it, right? So you might have guys that say like, "Hey, I saw this guy's in line with you," or this guy's wearing your stuff. How can I work with you?
Yeah.
But you have to understand too, these guys are not only training, but they're flying to different places, LA, Miami, Texas, to train with different trainers.
Mm-hmm.
They have all their brand deals. They are NFL players. They have media. So I mean, it's really not even working with the players so much as their agents, because their
Okay.
agents are kind of ones that are doing all like the work for them in terms of brand deals and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So like I said, it's just a process with that. And then so for instance, there was one athlete that we were going to do some stuff during the NFL draft with, but then he just signed a contract with Adidas, so like they couldn't work with us because it's conflicting, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot of like little things that we're still learning as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's never as easy as, oh, this guy, I heard about you through him, let's do a line now. Like there's always so much that has to kind of go on before it actually goes into production and is realized.
Yeah. And are you doing all this by yourself?
No, so we have a small team. So we have two sales guys on our team. That's reaching out on the business to business side. So like I said, we're working with about 40 companies right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll double that by the end of the year. And then we have someone that's kind of doing most of our social media for us as well. But in terms of working with like the NFL guys and like the contract side and things of that nature, that's mostly all me. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you first hire somebody? Like, when was your first employee?
First employee was November of last year.
That had to be exciting. That's a big
Yeah.
moment.
It is, man. It's a learning curve, right?
Mhm.
Because at least for me, right, the thing that attracted me to this business was being able to talk to people. That was number one. Like I've always told myself, I want to have a career where I don't have to just sit at a desk, but I can like sit and talk with individuals, figure out like who they are, what
Mhm.
like drives them, what motivates them. I've always been sort of like an outgoing sort of person. And then just like the artistic side of creating apparel, right? So we buy the fabric and then we create the apparel from that, right? So we
Mhm.
create tech packs, which is basically like a blueprint of what the apparel is going to look like. And that's what I enjoy doing. So when we hired someone, the way that I had to think about business was completely different, because instead of figuring out how to create apparel, I had to figure out like what motivates people, actual like the financial side of hiring someone, and compensation, things of that nature, right? So it was, I had to outsource that. I had, talked to other business owners. I was like, man, like, how do you do this shit? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I feel like that's like a common theme of of what I've, experienced during this process is so many times, like I think I know something, and then something comes up and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I think the biggest thing is just being open and honest about that, and finding people that do, and getting their insight on it. And a lot of stuff is trial and error, right? You try it. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't, you adjust it, tweak it a little bit until, it runs as it should.
It's awesome you say that, yeah, because you're clearly having success. And I think once you see someone have success, say running a business, you always just think, oh, they just knew how to do that. They had a good idea how to do it. Maybe, it's not that. People don't always think, oh, they didn't have any idea what they're doing at first. So it's cool to hear from someone who's just being honest about it, and speaking. Not that people are always trying to lie, but I think just the perception is usually not that. I had to ask somebody. I didn't know what I was doing. I am the boss. I had to talk to this person, talk to that person, and literally figure out every single step along the way, how to hire someone, how to do maybe payroll, or that whole process. And like you're saying, how to think about being a boss, how to motivate somebody. Because those are all big challenges. Like that's
Right.
what I was kind of thinking of, like the day you hired somebody. Like someone's job is directly impacted by you, like that's gotta be a big moment. Maybe you weren't thinking that deep about it. Maybe it wouldn't be good, but that's kind of the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely do think about it, right? Because
Yeah.
especially the first one that we hired, he's a college student, and he basically told me, he's like, this is how much I'm making in the summertime. When I go back home, he's like, as long as I'm making this much, working for you, like I won't work back at home. And so the first thing that you think about is, all right, he needs to make this amount of money. He needs to bring in this amount to make that, right? So your wheels are always turning. It's like, okay, how do I set him up to become successful? Because if he's successful, right, we're going to become more successful. And it's going to give him these opportunities as well. And I think that's the cool thing about this is, when I started this company, I gave myself an opportunity that I was excited for, right? I wanted to create something. I've always, like I said, I've always had that sort of like drive, that ambition, right? And now I am in a position to give other people that same exact opportunity. So that's what's really cool about it. But at the same time, it's not that easy, right? It's not saying, all right, I have this company, now I'm just going to throw you in. Now, you're going to have success, right? It's really building on what we've done so far, and what they're good at, what they're bad at. And trying to figure out like the best way that they fit into this, so to speak, puzzle.
Yeah. So that does sound exciting to me. I'm sure there's hard parts about it though, too, kind of like what you just said, maybe confronting what they're not the best at. Those first times doing that, I'm sure we're a little uncomfortable, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for them, I mean, not really. I'm a very like open and honest person, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll just tell it like how it is. Not like
not personal.
Yeah, not in like an insulting way, of course, but like if you are bad at this, right? Like I'll be the first one to admit, like when it comes to like the financial side of things, my brother does like all of our finances for us. I don't know what the hell I'm doing with the financial side. Like I can read financial reports and stuff, but in terms of like reconciling and like all these other like terms, and like that's just like not my forte, right? And I think that's what makes this special, is that I'm able to understand what I'm good at, what I'm bad at, hire out, what I'm bad at, so I can focus on triple down on what I'm good at, right? And I think that if especially the people that we bring on, if you can just be upfront and honest about that, your experience is going to be much better, because whatever you're bad at, we can figure out how to mitigate you being in those situations, right? So you can focus on what you're good at. And I think too, like when you have someone, especially as a leader, that is open and upfront and kind of walks, what they talk, it's easier for that person to be open as well, right? Because they know that you're not going to judge them. They know that that's just the way that it goes. If you're bad at something, that's all right. Like, you aren't supposed to be perfect at everything.
Hmm.
That's the thing, like jack of all trades, like that sounds good, but no one's really looking for jack of all trades anymore. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? No one wants an average person at something. I'd rather have you be really, really damn good at one thing and shitty at everything else, because at least when you're working on this one thing, like, no one's gonna be better than you.
Yeah, and you can teach them the rest.
Exactly.
And when you were first starting this, did you have? I would imagine you had another job to help finance this, or
Oh
how
man.
did you start financially?
Yeah. So I invested $800. I had $800 saved up from college, and basically I invested that. I bought, I think all of our shirts at the time came out to like 730 something bucks. And so I had what, $60 left over, and basically everything that we made just reinvested into the company,
Hmm.
put in another order. But yeah, so at the time, growing up, my brother always cut my hair.
Yeah.
And, once I went off to college, my going away gift for my brother was a, a clipper set from Walmart. And so I started cutting my hair, bro. Like I said, it was absolutely awful. It was the worst haircuts you can imagine. And after about 2 years, I started cutting, a few guys on the football team at St. Thomas. And by the time that I left St. Thomas, I was cutting about 120 people.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So basically, the way that it happened is I was cutting, some of our teammates in our locker room, and so the first couple weeks that I got at St. Thomas, you go through camp, and then at the end of camp you have
Hmm.
pitcher day. So I brought my clippers there, and at this time I was cutting my hair for about 2 years. So I was getting much better than when I first started. And I was cutting my hair after one of the practices at like 9 p.m. And a couple guys are like, "Hey Josh, like, can you cut my hair? Like, I need to look fresh tomorrow for pictures." So I was like, "Sure." Anyways, next week school started. I was cutting a couple guys, and I commuted from Chisago to St. Thomas, which is in St. Paul, about 40 minutes from me. So it usually costs $40 a week for gas. And cutting those guys, I would make enough to commute back and forth. So I was like, hell yeah, it's perfect. Um, Anyways, cutting these guys in our locker room, Coach Crusoe, head coach at St. Thomas, was like, "Josh, you got to get out of the bathroom." So in the bathrooms, you have these mats, right? That they're probably like an inch high, but they have these holes in them, right? So
Hmm.
water can get through them, so they're not slippery. And hair would get stuck in there, and it just like a pain in the ass for people who had to clean it up. So I'd go into the public bathroom, and so the way that the public bathroom is set up is if you're someone, a student, and you're going to go work out,
Yeah.
you have to go through the public bathroom to like change, or where the lockers are. And right when you walk through, there's like two big ass mirrors where like the
Hmm.
sinks are. And that's where I'd set up shop. So I'd cut people right there, and everyone that would walk through had to walk right past me. And so, like I said, for the first month, I was cutting 2 or 3 people. And um I'd have like the same people like walking past, and they would always like look at me, not really say much. And then finally, you get a couple that'd be like, "Hey man, like, do you cut hair for like everyone?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, like, just add me on, Instagram, Snapchat,
Hmm.
whatever." And it started, picking up, right? So I would get, 2 clients a week, then I'd get 4 clients a week. And like I said, by the end of it, I was getting, probably, yeah, cutting around 100 to 120 people.
Damn. Every
St. Thomas,
week
no, 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 no. In total,
in
probably,
total.
yeah, probably like 30 people a week.
It's a
Um,
lot.
St. Thomas actually brought like a camera crew in there. You can find it on on the internet. They brought a camera crew and like videotaped me and did like an interview about like me cutting hair in there. So that was like my number one way of making money back then, cutting people's hair between classes. And obviously I skipped some classes to do that as well. But yeah, I basically took that money and invested that into Ghost Fit, and that was really how we started it.
How long did you have it? Did you not once you started GhostFit, did you not have like a side job?
No, so I was until 2000 December of 2019. So basically right before COVID,
Hmm.
I was cutting hair. Like,
Oh, you were
that was
still in school, right? Yeah, you did
Yeah.
say
So
that.
I graduated in 2019.
Okay.
I was like a super senior because I was playing
Yeah.
all my years of eligibility for
Y-
football.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was cutting hair that entire time, reinvesting some of that money back into the
Hmm.
business as well, just so I could kind of balance it out. Obviously, right away we weren't making money with Ghost Fit. You know, a lot of expenses and
Yeah.
not a lot coming in right away. So it was honestly it was kind of like a perfect thing for us.
Yeah. Did you think about continuing that? Did you ever thought, oh, I'm gonna just start cutting hair after this? You already had a clientele base.
Um,
Obviously, it worked out
yeah,
anyways, but
yes and no. I mean, the one thing that I would want to do, and I still would want to do this. I think it'd be a really dope idea to like. So the way I think about this, and it came from cutting hair in the bathroom. So people that were like working out would want to get their hair cut, right?
mhm,
And they're also into fitness, right? And it correlates, right? If you care about how you look and how you feel, you probably
mhm,
want to have a good haircut as well. They all kind of go together. Um, so if I created a gym, right, like a
mhm.
dope ass gym, right, like an outside sort of vibe with like the garage doors, fucking music, kind of just like a old dungy, not dungy in like a nasty place, but like barbells, shit like
Mhm.
that.
Kind of
Um,
badass.
yeah, badass gym, right? Like a kind of like a Gold's kind of atmosphere with like a really high end barbershop that was like integrated into the gym. Like that'd be so sick. You know
That
what I
would be
mean?
sick.
And it would just remind me of cutting hair in the same time as bathrooms. So
Yeah,
um
I've had similar ideas like that before of
yeah,
just like a men's, I mean, obviously women too. So maybe just in general, like a spa, like a whole spa integrated, like everything fitness, health and wellness, looks wise, kind of like you're saying, all also incorporated with the gym. Because that same shit, I think that'd work perfect. You could have your Ghost Fit apparel in there.
exactly.
Be
You
obviously the
know,
Ghost Fit gym.
Ghost Fit Gym, Ghost Cuts. Like that's what people would always. So when people would, pay me or whatever, they would. I don't know who started, but it was just Ghost Cuts, right? Like that was sort
Okay.
of like that was a nickname that I got Ghost from my brother when I was back in high school playing football. He just
Yeah.
randomly called me Ghost after one of the games. And so that just sort of like stuck. So Ghost Fit is obviously Ghost and plus fitness, right? That was sort of how that name came about. It's not nothing fancy, right? But
Yeah.
it was just something that I thought about when I first started the business. And then, people started calling it Ghost Cuts. And then, right. So I think that name, that like legacy of the name, which is kind of interesting, right?
Hmm.
It would be cool to kind of like, create like a Ghost LLC where, we had Ghost Cuts, Ghost Fit, right? Ghost Gym, like whatever that is, like that's something that I definitely want to do in the future.
But you could do it.
Yeah,
You
no,
should definitely do
exactly.
it. I,
Yeah.
I did a semester abroad in college, and there's a massive company over there called Easy Company. And you didn't realize it at first, but like there's Easy Jets. So I was like, oh, it's an airliner. And then just driving around London, you'd see Easy, like everything. There was like Easy Storage, Easy Gyms. I went to an Easy Gym. It was just like,
Really,
dude, they own everything. Yeah.
dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
And like once you become like a mogul in it, I feel like you not that you become unstoppable, but like when your network gets that big, like like I said, there's so many different opportunities that
Hmm.
you have access to now. And I think Ghost fits the start of it, right? What's the saying? Like if you think your first job is going to be your last, like you're an idiot, like something like that, like that, whatever that saying is. Like I think Ghost Fit's going to kind of start this off for us. And this is my baby. I think it's always going to be something that you nurture in a different way than
Hmm.
everything else. But it would be cool to have a business where it's less about thing about Ghostfit is that it's so personal to me, right? And it's all about like connections and like the brand and the vision, and right there's so much that goes into it. But it would be kind of cool too to have a business that was just kind of more about like the funds, right? Like a more focus on money that could help fund other ventures as well.
Hmm.
Whether I mean I don't know exactly what that is. I think if I started a gym as well and a barbershop, that would really be more on like the Ghost Fit side where it's more about the relationship and stuff. But
Hmm.
if you could create something that was more that would help fund all these other business ventures, I think that'd be really cool. Something that you don't have to spend as much like man hours,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Be interesting what that would be.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say, what I forgot earlier, is that it came back to me.
Oh, this is it.
Yeah, this is the money one, because we were talking about money and passion, and something that I came to a conclusion for myself and just kind of realized, and it's obvious once you think about it, like anybody at the top of any industry gets paid well, like they live well. So if you do something that you're passionate about and that you're actually going to like do the extra work for, and that you're actually going to work hard towards and give yourself a shot to be great at it, like you're going to do fine financially. Like anything. I mean, even like the top barbers in the world probably making millions of dollars.
You're right.
They're probably cutting hair for celebrities or royal people or just high class people around the whole world, wherever that is, whatever city that is. And I always think about like training. Like training is something I've thought about doing. Like trainers oftentimes don't make a ton of money, but I bet like the number one trainers in New York or LA or Chicago or even Minneapolis, I bet they make really good money. Like, so whatever it is, if you have passion for it, then you give yourself a shot to be like really good at it. So if you have like passion for starting apparel, like you're having success, like you could be one of the biggest apparel companies in the world. So don't worry about like the money, kind of like what you're saying. I know that's kind of off topic now, but that's what I was trying to say before.
No, I think that's this ties the subject well together so well. So, like you said, like even barbers, right? When you have that passion for it. So when we first started Ghost Fit, our first ever shirts, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, so my brother used to cut my hair. I used to watch, barber videos. There's this guy named Chris Basio who I started watching when I was in 8th grade, and he was a barber, right? And I just loved watching like the transformations. I don't know if you've seen any of them on, YouTube. So like, they'll have this guy who grew his hair out for, entire year. Then barbers will come in and clean it up and it looks, 10 times better. Anyways, this guy, Chris Basio, my brother used to always watch him because that's how he was kind of learning how to cut hair. And then, I started watching him as well. And anyways, I really started watching him, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, because I knew that, I was starting to get into that, realm as well. And anyways, he kind of blew up on YouTube. I think he has like, 400,000 followers now on YouTube. And so basically what he started to do is he was just an average barber at first, recording his stuff. Then he kind of started blowing up. So then he started doing like tours. So he would go around the US. I think he went internationally as well, and he would rent out barbershops, and then people would pay to like come in and watch him cut hair, and that he would kind of like, it'd kind of be like a class, right? So he would walk them through exactly what he's doing. And anyways, he came to St. Paul. This was my junior year, and I reached out to him. And so about 2 years before this, let me say, when I first started Ghost Fit, I sent him out some shirts, and I put it like a handwritten letter, in it, saying like, hey, my name's Josh, kind of describing like who I was, what Ghost Fit was. Like I said, we were like a month old at this point.
Yeah.
He ended up like responding to it, started talking to him a little bit on Instagram. And then fast forward 2 years, he comes to St. Paul for one of his classes. And, I got to meet him for like a half hour before the class. And we're just, talking this and that, right? He's telling me about, everything that, they're doing now. Fast forward to now, so he, like I said, he was just this average barber, and he started Tomb 45, which is his barber brand. And they started with a shave gel. And basically, for those that don't know, like when you use a straight blade on someone, you put shave gel on their face so that their follicles become, not as dense, so it doesn't irritate the skin at all. And so he made this concoction in his kitchen, using his wife's utensils, right? Mixing it together, aloe, like whatever else he was using. And he just started pushing them. So he started on Amazon, then he was selling pallets to other places. Anyways, that became like $1 million business for him, just that alone. And then he started adding other products to his product line. And luckily, fortunate enough for us, last year we actually did a collaboration with him. So we did a bunch of like clothing, Ghost Fit X 245. But anyways, you talk about an average barber, someone that's, there's nothing intrinsically, gifting about like what he did, but he was just so passionate about the industry, right? And he saw flaws in the industry, and he wanted to fix those flaws, right? So it wasn't about making $1 million or 2 million or 5 million. It was seeing that there was something wrong with the industry and him going in and fixing it. And, so you talk about like that passion and what it can lead to. I'm sure that he had no idea that, his plan would lead to where he's at right now. But, he knew that there was something that he could change, and man, like he's taken off now. It's really cool to see him do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's perfect. Yeah. You don't think I'm going to be a barber and that's going to lead me to probably million or multi-million-dollar business.
Right.
At least
right.
I wouldn't at first, but something it could really happen with anything, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the crazy thing too is that our stories are very similar. He was a college basketball player, and I think that he ended up quitting after his freshman year, and he started YouTube. So like there's just you see these opportunities that go wayside because of whether you get injured or you quit or whatever it may be, and you think like that's the one plan that was going to get me to where I wanted to go, and then it opens opportunities for other opportunities to take place. And sometimes those secondary opportunities are better than the first. I'm not saying quit all the shit that you're doing right now, but if that happens, I think the biggest thing is those people that take advantage of those secondary opportunities are ones that just aren't gonna give up, right? And I think that's the punchline with it all. Like, just because shit doesn't go your way, just continue to move, and eventually something's gonna happen from that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like The Rock. I'm sure you've read his story. It's kind of like, sounds like what you were saying for yourself, is thought he was going to be in the league, thought he was going to be in the NFL, played the CFL, I think, a little bit, got cut. Football didn't work out for him. Obviously became like a superstar in WWE, and now acting. Like, yeah, just crazy. He took advantage of that secondary opportunity, just like you're saying.
You can't really get bigger than The Rock is right now.
Exactly. It's for real.
Man might run for president, it looks like.
Right? You keep hearing that. Yeah. Vote for The Rock.
Right.
But one thing I wanted to ask about kind of those NFL guys again, what is like the biggest surprise maybe with just the whole process of kind of doing contracts like that and working with them and having them be, what would you call, ambassadors or affiliates of GhostFit?
Yeah, so the question was like, what's like the most surprising thing about it?
Yeah, either maybe their impact or just the relationship, having to deal with them, or maybe something with the agent. Like, kind of what caught you off guard the most, I guess, good or bad?
Yeah, I think the business side of it is really, so when most people think about NFL players, right? Like, you think about them being these phenomenal athletes, right? Which obviously they clearly are. But one thing that I didn't realize is these guys, the agents are always trying to get these guys money, right? Even whether it's during the middle of the season, whether they're, a week out from the Super Bowl, like they're always trying to get these guys money. So for instance, we worked with one NFL player that, he's endorsing a collaborative product that we were working on. And the company that we were working with paid him $2,500 for a 30-second video that he just took on his cell phone. That was like, hey, this is the product that I'm endorsing, blah, blah, him wearing it, right? Like, these agents are always reaching out to brands trying to get their athletes money, because obviously the agents get money off of that as well. But there's just like there's two sides to the coin. Obviously, these players are themselves are focusing strictly on football, but their agents are always focusing on getting them money, getting them endorsement deals. So like that business side of the NFL is absolutely insane. Like they're always doing stuff on like the professional side, with businesses as well. Like while they're playing, while they're practicing year round, it's kind of crazy to see.
So just the business engine of, the whole behind the scenes stuff is just constant, basically.
Dude, yeah, it's constant. It's always trying to one up, right? So like you sign them for 3 months and they're like, all right, now we want to sign them for longer. We want more money. Like they're always in rotation when it comes to more money. and
Yeah.
not in like a bad way. Like obviously, like I said, they help your brand, but I'm sure in the 70s and the 80s it was never like this, you know.
Yeah. Dealing with agents, I bet that's got to be a new thing. Professional, legitimate agents. 'Cause, yeah, they're probably wheelers and dealers.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. They come in all different shapes and sizes, right? There's some people that are super formal, super professional. And there's other agents that you see on their Instagram that are partying at the clubs with them. Like
Yeah.
some of their agents are, their homeboys from them growing up. Some people are, actual agency that they hire. So that's really just like being transparent. You know what I mean? Like for me, obviously, you kind of have to be a chameleon in that sense. If you're working with someone that is very formal, you kind of have to match that, same personality. But then
Yeah.
when you're meeting with someone that's, like you just like more casual, like just a regular conversation. Like I would say the majority of the agents that we work with are, more of this sort of conversation
Yeah.
where it's like, here's my guy. Obviously, we want to make him money. He's really busy. Like, let's figure out how it can work. That's who, not saying that I don't like to work with professional agents, of course,
Hmm.
I do. I'd love to work with any sort of agent. But this is like more of like how the conversation flows. So it's not really like, I think that's sort of like the facade. Like when you see stuff like on like TV and stuff, like everything looks very professional, but in the reality of it, like this is what I would say. At the end of the day, like it's all the same shit. People are trying to make money and people are trying to like help other people, right?
Hmm.
And when you do it in an authentic way, and that I think this is kind of how I learned it. Like when you do it in an authentic way, it's more likely than not it's going to happen if it's in an authentic way rather than being like salesy about it, right? So like,
Yeah.
you just get a lot of just regular ass people that are working for these multimillionaires and that's just kind of how it works. It's not as like businessy, suit and tie as you would think it might be.
Yeah. See, that's surprising to me. I wouldn't have expected that myself. Obviously, some guys, yeah, kind of bring on their own manager maybe, but I would have thought it would have been the opposite, like more professional, kind of more unlikely just to kind of have those casual guys. But that's kind of cool, honestly.
Yeah. No, I mean, so you see the professional side when you are like signing contracts and like doing documents because all that has to be laid out in a specific way, like
Yep.
lawyers get involved, like things of that nature. But when you're just having conversations, I mean, sometimes they're fucking drinking a beer, they're,
Hmm.
they swear a little bit. I mean, they're just being an average human being, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just that, you're just working with a little bit more money, that's all.
That's awesome, bro. That's really actually cool.
It
Just to
is.
even, like you're saying, dreams to be in the NFL, maybe playing didn't exactly work out, but just still being around the league and having your job be, obviously, like you said, it's not all you're doing, but hopefully that part will grow for you. But still just being involved with those guys and the whole process of the NFL, I still think would be exciting because then you're still around football. You're still just involved in that world and
Right.
kind of
Well,
gets
that's
that
the
itch a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think, like I said, I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but just having that network, right?
Hmm.
Being able to have like, and by no means do we have an NFL network, like we're not there yet. Hopefully
Yeah.
we get there soon,
Yeah.
relative. But having like a professional network with, so we, working with different sort of banks and, financial planners, things of that nature, like having that realm of it, having a like a fitness network with, the gyms in Minnesota, and we're working with some in California, Florida, and Texas, having that realm. And then, having sort of, these NFL guys, like having all different sorts of realms of network. I mean, that's awesome because it allows you to diversify your portfolio, right? Which, when gyms were all shut down,
Hmm.
that's probably not the best people to sell to, right? But these NFL guys, still want stuff. Banks and financial planners, like they still need stuff for, outings, right? So it just gives you a little bit more assurity. And once I can figure out how to like overlap all of them, I think that's where we're really gonna, excel at.
Yeah. It's all fun. It's all strategy. That's the thing. That once you kind of realize, I mean, I don't run a business myself, but just speaking with other people who are, and I went to school for finance, so like we talked a lot about business and things. And once you do realize it's just strategy, like there's rules, obviously, like tax and financial things that you have to follow, and laws. But the actual kind of like you're saying, the people side of business is just like strategy, making connections, benefiting everybody at least the best to your ability, being authentic. Like that kind of seems a lot more fun than just numbers.
Right. Well, there's no game, there's no rule book, there's no game plan.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't really teach hustle, right? Like you either have it or you don't. I mean, I guess you can be influenced by it, right? If a lot of people around you are hustling, I'm sure that you can pick up a game from that. But um, I think the biggest thing about me is that I would always rather bet on myself than anyone else, right? And not
Hmm.
not in like an egotistical way, but more in the fact that I know how hard I work when I'm passionate about something, right?
Hmm.
And that's really what this is. I'm my days, right? If you were to ask like what my days look like, it's waking up, it's cold calling and emailing gyms, right? Always trying to get more, business from that end. It's being on Instagram, reaching out to influencers, reaching out to NFL players, reaching out to, anyone that can help push our brand further.
Hmm.
Setting up meetings, right? Driving to businesses, right? Just doing anything to help get our name out there, help drive sales, trying to connect with anyone in the industry that I think can help us, right? It's really just like hustling. I feel like it's just the core of that, right? No one tells me, hey, you got to wake up and you have to reach out to this many businesses, you have
Yep.
to DM this many people on Instagram. But like to me, that's just like natural. It's like, all right, if I can get this person on board with us, that's going to help us, right?
Hmm.
If I can, put out this ad because it's gonna, drive in this many sales, like that's what I'm gonna do. Like that's what's fun for me because it's almost like a game, right? It's you're trying to figure out how the hell to win, right?
Hmm.
And it's like I said, it's trial and error. Like does this work? No, all right, ditch it. Does that work? Yes, all right. Like how do we, triple down on this now? Like it's
Hmm.
it's a always like evolving sort of game, it seems like.
Do you have an ad strategy?
Yeah, so we actually work with a few. Well, in the past, we worked with the ads manager that really helped us. Do you know much about funnels? Have you heard of that term before?
Oh, ClickFunnels?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, not well, ClickFunnels is one, but so if we're thinking about the same thing, like a ClickFunnel is like on like a website where they'd click on like a bunch of shit until they get to like buy our product now. Is that kind of
I
what
think so. So, I mean,
ClickFunnels?
I'm not super familiar with it either myself. I've just spoken about it with another friend of mine, very, very
Yeah,
little, but
yeah.
I think that's
Um,
kind of what it is.
yeah, so more of like our strategy is um basically we do like a lot of retargeting. So people that have been on our website, we will create ads specifically for those people that will retarget them if they've been on our website in the past like 30 to 120 days.
Hmm.
Um, so we have that ad strategy for like Facebook and Instagram ads, and obviously we do email marketing.
Hmm.
So whenever you buy a product, you put in your information, we're able to send you guys like promotions, new apparel that's dropping, right? Things that are relevant to the company. And then, influencers, like that's a huge one, right?
Hmm.
So you get people to, wear your product, endorse it, um, repost, tag you in it, things of that nature, right? So there's a lot of like different ways to do that. I think one thing that kind of like separates us as well in the influencer realm. So the way that I always think about this is when you work with someone, right? It's you put in like a lot of energy to that person, right?
Hmm.
Because you have to get to know them, you got to figure out what they like, what they dislike, kind of like their audience, right? There's a lot that I guess you don't have to do that, but for me that's the most beneficial because then I can look at a person and be like, all right, this is going to work or this isn't. So
Hmm.
every time we work with someone new, especially like if I'm DMing people like, hey, love, if could we send you out free apparel for you to try, tag us, this and that. Before I ever send out apparel, 100% of the time, I always get on a FaceTime with that person because I want to get to know them. I want them to get to know us. And like, if I can't just like sit down and have a casual conversation with someone, then I don't want to work with them. Like, it's not worth it to like spend my time and my effort to send you out apparel if like we don't connect in that way, because
Hmm.
it has to be more than just business, right? You have to have like a personal relationship. That's what I feel, at least, to make it become long term. So that's like when I do that, I feel like that helps us so much more in actually like fulfilling like what that duty of sending out free apparel is supposed to do, rather
Mhm.
than just DMing a bunch of people, send them out free apparel. They post one time, you send out
Yeah.
$73 and you may get an order, right? Like that's not very personal to me. And I feel like I'm just kind of like wasting their time. They're wasting ours in a sense.
Yeah. I get that completely. It's you're just making a personal connection. So then it is both. It is business. You guys are benefiting each other, but yeah, you're not just some stranger who's like, oh,
Right.
cool, I got a shirt from this guy. Whatever.
Right. And I think when you treat people, like family, and you treat people like human beings, I know that sounds weird, but a lot of people when it comes to business, they just treat you as a means to an end, right? Like I'm just
Hmm.
gonna send him apparel and we're gonna get money from him, and that's just kind of that transaction.
Hmm.
But when you actually treat someone like a person as they are, like you get other added benefits, right? So for instance, so say I send out apparel to someone that I actually have a relationship with. They might post some stuff for free for us. They might tell a
Hmm.
few more of their friends, because not only do they like their brand, but they like me as an owner that is kind of providing that vision for the brand, right? It makes it more real. It makes it feel like it's more than just a product that they're receiving, right? They're receiving a service, and that service is feeling comfortable around a brand, feeling like they're welcomed, right? That's really important nowadays.
Yeah, I believe that. To me, that would make the most sense as well.
Right.
Because it's mean then they're involved themselves. They care about it more than just some shirt. It's like, oh, I actually like these guys. I like what they're doing. I like the message. I believe in it myself. I'll talk good about this. It's not even conscious either, too. They just believe
Mhm.
that. If they feel that, then yeah, anybody at the gym, whatever, they're going to be talking about it. Oh, where's that shirt from? Oh, let me tell you about it. And it's just natural.
Exactly.
It's just
I think
natural.
it goes back to the whole, like, treat people the way you want to be treated. I know that sounds cheesy, but like that's the truth. Like if I was in the way that I look at it, if I was in their positions, like how would I want to be treated as,
Hmm.
someone that was going to represent their brand? Like I would want to feel like they give a fuck about me. Because
Hmm.
if they do, then it's like, all right, like I'm almost obligated now to reciprocate that.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that our intentions are so that people will just randomly talk about us. It's because like I said, if I'm going to send you out free apparel, that means I'm going to do it in the future. That means I'm going to repost you. That means I'm going to, right? It's going to be more than, just me sending you apparel and that transaction, right?
Hmm.
So, I want to make sure that this relationship can go far beyond just that.
Hmm. I think it's good. I think it's a good strategy to have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been working so far.
I was gonna say, yeah, it seems like it's working. So what has been the biggest surprise? We talked about this with the NFL specifically, but just in business, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's in the apparel industry, gym industry, fitness industry, what has been the biggest surprise there?
I
Again,
say
good or bad?
the biggest surprise is just the emotions. Like literally every day you feel every emotion, right? So, like for instance, like today, I woke up and the first message that I got is, so we're getting new shipment in, and we get all of our stuff from overseas. And the first thing I get this morning at like 7:30 is, in order for your packages to be released, you have to pay, a duties tax. So it's like, oh fuck, I wake up and pay $500. It's like, all right, nice. Like I wasn't expecting that, right?
Hmm.
And then, few minutes later, we get some people that started like reposting some of our products. And I'm like, hell yeah, right? So you get excited, and then preparing for this, right? And then after this, I have a few meetings with businesses, and who knows how that'll go, right? So like
Yep.
there's it's never like you're in one same mindset for the entire day. And it's very not confusing, but you have to sort of learn how to live with like that roller coaster of emotions. And I'm sure that that's like it's similar in other professions as well, but it's just something that I never really thought about, right?
Yeah.
In terms of how frequently I won't say that your mood changes, because I think that I'm always a very optimistic and like quote unquote happy person. Um, but you definitely do go through like changes in terms of the way that you feel.
Yeah. Every day. I mean, anything can come up,
Right.
so you never know if it's gonna be good or bad.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean I think too as well, just like anything, you know, the human body is very good at adapting, right? So,
Mhm.
you know, you begin to get used to it, and um I don't want to say anticipate certain feelings, but you know, when things come up, I think what I've been able to do well now is um you know, something bad comes up, quote unquote. I don't think anything is necessarily bad. Like I had to pay $500. Well,
Yeah.
I'm getting all this apparel that we're going to sell. Like that's not a bad thing, but it's something that was unexpected. You just learn to deal with it and move on,
Hmm.
right? It's part of business. It's part of what I signed up for. So
Yeah. Don't look at it as, oh my God, this horrible thing. Just, okay, whatever this is, let me just figure out the solution to it. Right.
exactly. That's all. I mean, that's all you can do, right? I can sit
Yeah.
and bitch about it, but that's not gonna make my shipment come any sooner or
Exactly.
cheaper.
Yeah. And what was you had to pay some extra tax or something?
Yeah, so like I said, everything comes from overseas, so you have to
Yeah.
pay more duties.
Yeah.
So yeah, here, you know, pay us basically to allow your stuff to come
Yep.
into the US.
Yeah. And are you going through Alibaba?
um, so yes, but no. Okay, so basically, are you familiar with Alibaba is? I'd assume so since you just
A little
said,
bit. Yeah. I've
yeah.
looked into it before.
Yeah. So for those that don't know what Alibaba is, it's basically like a foreign version of Amazon in a
Mhm.
sense, but instead of buying a product as you would on Amazon, you can find manufacturers. I mean, it's really a manufacturing platform.
Yep.
I mean, you can buy individual products as well. But so when we first found our manufacturer, we went through Alibaba and we were introduced to, you know, the manufacturer that we're currently using. But we no longer use Alibaba. Now we just talk directly to the manufacturer.
Yeah.
So I guess we use Alibaba,
Yeah.
but not
Just
directly, if that makes sense.
yeah, just to start. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. It was basically like a transition
Hmm.
to get to our manufacturer to find them.
And was that the first one you've ever used, or did you go through a couple and like this product or this manufacturer the best?
So overseas, this is the first one that we used. We actually used when we first started, it was like this wholesale company out in Baltimore. Basically, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of like Bella Canvas or what are the other ones, like Next Level. It's basically like wholesale products that someone had already created, and then you
Hmm.
just buy it's like a blank shirt that you can put your logo on. Like that's how we first started. Like we weren't
Hmm.
actually creating the garment, we're just buying blank products.
Hmm.
But then after like the first, I think it was 3 months, 4 months, we ended up going overseas so we could actually buy the fabric ourselves and create it to our specs.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we've used this manufacturer that we're using currently the entire time. We have deviated a little bit. So we've created, what was it? Some of our women's stuff that we created in the past was through a different company. I think there was another product. I think we had like a jog or something that we used a different manufacturer for, but you know, some manufacturers are really good for one thing and not great
Hmm.
for the other thing. Um, so you kind of have to test the waters in that sense.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And are you designing your own shirts or apparel, pants, or are you having someone else design it, or someone work for you as a designer?
No, yeah, so I do all that. I have a sketchbook where I just write down everything. It was funny actually. I was emptying out my closet like 3 or 4 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I just have like old like journals and planners and notebooks and stuff from college. And I would like flip through them, and like, you know, one page would be, you know, like math notes, and then the next one would be designs and logos and shit. So no, yeah, I do most of all of that. We actually don't have any women's apparel
Yeah.
anymore. Just because I was designing all that. I'm a horseshit women's designer. So I will be hiring someone out to do our women's apparel for us. But yeah, I'm not fit to do that.
Yeah. That'd be, because again, we relate to a lot of things, obviously, growing up as athletes. And I thought about, I was big into lifting. I still am fitness. I thought about doing apparel for a handful of different times. And I always thought it'd be hard to do women's stuff because I don't, we know it fits guys, obviously. We're guys. Like,
Exactly.
you'd want to have a girl probably.
When there's different sort of like qualifications, right? So like, say I create a t-shirt,
Hmm.
I'll like try the t-shirt on, I'll work out in it, I'll wash it and dry it, make sure it's see if it doesn't, shrink too much, if it doesn't lose its color, make sure like the logos don't fall off, right? Just make sure it's like all the shit, right?
Yeah.
Those are certain housekeeping things that you have to do with every product.
Yeah.
But if I'm wearing, if I'm making, sports bra or yoga pants, like I'm not gonna put them on and work out in them and right do sort of things. And in the past we had women that would try that for us, but the one difficult part is especially for like a smaller brand, maybe the brand doesn't really have anything to do with it, maybe it's just an individual, but you get people that won't necessarily give you honest opinions, and when they help you design things, you kind of have like a certain connection to it, right? Because you created it. So if you create something, you're going to be more opted to be like, oh yeah, this is dope, right? And I think that happened too often with us, and it wasn't as good as I thought it would be, right? So you almost need like someone that's unbiased to give you that sort of credibility if they like it or not.
Yeah. So they're just kind of trying to please you.
Right. Well, yeah, I think they're trying to please you in a sense.
Not make you feel bad.
Yeah, but I think genuinely, right, they help pick out the product, they help pick out, the fabric, the design. So then when they get it in, right, the first time you see your product with, your logo on it, I mean, it's hard to be like, oh, this sucks, right? Just, I mean, it's your baby, so you kind of have to have like a disconnection with, ego and like the reality of, this is a product that we have to sell to consumers and they need to love it.
Did you come up with your own logo? Did you design it?
Yeah, which I don't really like it very much.
Yeah.
To be honest. No, dude, so I started this 3.5 years ago, like I said, and it was just like a random day. I think it was like 3 a.m. in the morning. I was trying to outsource our logo to other people. And it was like a bunch of like cartoonish sort of like logos, right? Because it's ghost fit, right? So a lot of the stuff was like, a ghost that you would see on like a cartoon, right?
Like Snapchat ghosts.
Snapchat ghost, right? And I was like, nah, I don't want that vibe. Like I want something that's super minimalistic, whatever. And I ended up basically creating that Snapchat ghost and then just erasing lines to make it very as minimalistic as possible. And I think it's fine, right? But we're going to go through a rebranding stage, I think, with the actual, logo. Basically what we use now is just our name, Ghost Fit, right? And I think it's cool too to be able to, because we aren't using our logo, right? People don't necessarily know us yet from just our logo. So by just using our name, that helps as well, because, people look at our logo, well, what is that? I don't know. Well, people just see Ghost Fit, well, what is Ghost Fit? Now they can look it up, right? So it gives us that added benefit as well. I don't know. I think it's almost like more sleek as well. I think that there's a stigma right now where people don't want to walk around with like big logos on them, right? It's more of like a, like a lifestyle sort of look, of something a little bit more minimalistic. So, that's been helping us as well from a consumer standpoint.
Just putting kind of a little, says ghost on it, right?
Yeah,
ghost, or making the logo small.
No, I mean, so like all of our stuff now, it really just says Ghost Fit on it somewhere. Small, sleek. And that kind of goes with where our business is going as well. Like I said, so we have a ton of inventory, and we outsource it to other companies. So since our stuff is minimalistic, we can put other companies' logos on our products, and it's not overwhelming with our identity on it, even though like we make it. It still looks like they're branded apparel, which is super nice for them.
What do you mean by that? Are you saying for like the businesses you work with, like say a bank?
Yeah. So say we work with, I don't know, like say we worked with like Lifetime, right?
Yeah.
We'll have a shirt that just says like Ghost Fit, like on the tag in the back, right? It's very subtle, but then we'll put like a big Lifetime logo on the chest. Anyone that looks at the shirt is gonna be like, okay, that's Lifetime apparel, obviously.
Yeah.
But then when they look in the tag and it says Ghost Fit, created by Ghost Fit, our website, like that's how they know it's ours.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. So we can still sell those products online, which we do. And consumers like that they aren't walking around with big ass logos everywhere. But then companies are willing to put their logos on our already logoed shirt because it's not overwhelming for them.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize you were doing that as well.
Yeah, yep. So so when I said that we hired 2 salespeople, that's what they're really doing. They're reaching out to, local and nationwide businesses, basically leveraging the apparel that we already have and using that for their brand.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I want to
thank you,
switch.
thank you.
I want to switch gears here a little bit.
Definitely.
We don't have to be on much longer. It's almost already over an hour and a half here, but so
I can talk all day. So,
do you have a specific time you got to be done?
no,
No.
I can go when the conversation's over, whatever that is.
Yeah. Just, you mentioned you had some meetings there. I didn't want to keep you late or anything, but take me through what it was like being recruited to the U, and then I know we mentioned it a little bit, but getting there, maybe it not being what you were expecting it was going to be, or going how you're expecting it was going to go. And then, because I read your story that you've
Yeah.
kind of alluded to here, and I guess the mental side of that of maybe feeling like your dreams are kind of falling apart literally right in front of you, and then kind of like you're saying, maybe avoiding, not confronting that.
Right.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
No. You kind of hit the nail on the head. Man, yeah. So the recruiting, I mean, it's really a sales pitch. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? So I wasn't like a super highly recruited high school athlete. I mean, think I had 3 or 4 full ride offers from North Dakota, South Dakota. I was getting recruited by Northern Iowa, Northern Illinois. So these smaller Division I schools. And it's a very interesting process because I was 17 years old. Obviously, high school athlete that, I thought I was, hot shit at the time. And the University of Minnesota reaches out to me, and I didn't understand the financial side of it at the time. So I had full ride scholarships. I wouldn't have to pay for any school, any classes, right? Everything would be paid for.
Yep.
And I had the University of Minnesota that said, hey, come be a walk-on. And, it's the University of fucking Minnesota. Like, I can't say no to that, right? So, go through that process where, they bring you to, football games, you're on the sidelines, you meet the coaches, you meet the players, you go to practices, you sit in on film when, during practice while they're, before they go out there, right? So you're kind of living a day in the life as a Division I football player. You eat with them, right? You go to their dorms, you go hang out with them at night with, whether that's, nightlife, whatever that looks like. So you really are kind of engulfed, and you feel like part of the team, right? It's a sensation where it's like, you feel like family, which obviously that's what they want you to do. So you go through that process, and it's so that what I just described as an official visit, right? So you can visit them from a standpoint of like going onto campus and going looking at classrooms and things of that nature. But officially, when they invite you, they put you into a hotel. They give you, they bring you out to dinners. They do all this like luxurious sort of formal events for you, which is basically signifying like, we want you on the team. This is what we have to offer. This is a glorified version of what every day for you is going to look like. And obviously they try to hype it up as much as possible. And like I said, you're a high school football player. You don't really know much from like a business side of what they're trying to do. So, for me, I was like, yep, like I want to go here. This is the Gophers. I've been watching them my entire life. At the same time, they're hyping you up, man. Like, I remember when I was, when I went on my recruiting visit there, which Coach Kill, if you guys don't know who Coach Kill is, he was the head coach for the Gophers. We get there, and I love the man still. He's a great guy, but they're practicing. They're like, man, like I wish we could throw you out there right now. And so you get like these signs where it's like, oh, they really like me, this and that. You go to Coach Kill's house, you sit down with him and his wife, and think they had a dog at the time. You just, talk about, football life, just little things where it's, they make you feel at home. And so I get there, and so you have these expectations in mind, right? You feel like you're a certain player based off of what they've been telling you. Not that they're lying necessarily, but obviously they're going to make you feel as good as possible. So I get there, and my first year, what I told myself is, I'm going to redshirt my first year, and then hopefully, have a chance to start, play, this and that, right? And you get there, and it is much different than what I anticipated. Guys are much bigger, faster, stronger, right? Plays were a lot more intricate. The lifestyle from, off seasons, waking up, in the wintertime at 5:30 a.m. doing, workouts in the morning, right? There's so many different levels to it than just playing football, right? Just playing football is really a small piece to being a Division I football player, right? There's so many different things that you have to do as a student athlete. And, I got down to a point where I was like, what am I doing here? Right. Like I'm working my ass off. I'm not really getting anything out of it. Right. And in hindsight, I was there for, 6 months when I first started thinking this. And right, I was used to instant gratification, right? I was used to working during practice, playing in games, doing well, people telling you good job, this and that. And you weren't getting that anymore. And, you were sort of used to that lifestyle. And like I said, I was very immature at that time. Like I didn't understand that, I had to go through this process to, start from the bottom, right? Work myself up to get to that point again. Which now that I look at it, that should have never been my aspiration to, right, have that sort of feeling, right? It should have been more of like, I'm here because I have a great opportunity. Now let's just work my ass off. Like I would, if I had that opportunity, I think I would have done, just fine there. Anyway, so I'm making these excuses, and I know in the back of my head that they are exactly that, excuses. And so yeah, man, I end up, convincing myself to quit. I remember calling my brother. I was walking home from practice, and I tell him, and he's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you had all these dreams to go to the NFL, this and that. And I'm like, no, man, like I'm done. Like I'm just, I don't love the sport anymore. I remember keep on saying that, I just don't love the sport anymore. Which I think that was my way of saying, like, this isn't what I'm used to, right? I was outside of my comfort zone, right? This isn't, something that, I've been acclimated to before. And that just goes to show, how, weak I was in that time of my life, which, looking back at it now, like I'm thankful for that, that I was able to experience that, because it's helped me with, owning a business now and going through those ups and downs. But yeah, so after, like I said, I ended up quitting that spring after my first season there, and, got diagnosed, whatever that means, with anxiety, was on these pills. And basically, these pills made me feel like a zombie. I would, like I said, I quit class and all this. And the reason why I did was because I would literally sleep until like 2 or 3 p.m. Like I was literally just like in bed, like all day. I never felt like happy or sad or like mad, or like I just felt like a body like walking through life, right? But I really had like no emotion in it. And I remember thinking, like, this can't like be what my life is now. Like I was like 3 months earlier, or 3 months before, like I was a Division I football player, like, and I definitely took for granted what I had, right? And I was like, all right, I need to figure out like how the fuck to like get back to whatever normal can be. So I started reading books. Like I said, one was Tony Robbins, Money Mastering the Game. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but basically, he talks a lot about, money, and not necessarily like what it can buy you, but like the importance of money and like financial like freedom, and a lot of like guru stuff, which I don't necessarily know if I want to endorse that, because you get a lot of like shit like that nowadays, and I don't know how much I believe in that stuff, but
Yeah, rah shit.
Exactly. But one thing that he did say that stuck with me was raise your standards. And that's something that, kind of started the business in terms of, what the foundation of Ghost Fit was. And when I read that, it was become like a value adding citizen, right? Like expect more from yourself, expect more from others, right? Like just raise your standards. It was very like self-explanatory to me without him actually like defining it.
Mhm.
And so once I read that, that was, I told you that I flushed those pills down the toilet and all that kind of stuff started working out again. Like once I read that, something in my mind like changed. It was like, dude, like I'm just like feeling bad for myself. I'm sulking. I'm being lazy because mentally I'm allowing myself to do that, right? And
Mhm.
I never had been that person before. And I think a switch kind of, turned on for me at that point. And so that was sort of like the foundation of me sort of getting back onto my feet, and kind of going off of that. So before I started this business, I knew that I wanted to do something to give back to people, right? I had a great foundation, I had a great family, I had teammates, I had coaches that helped me, right? It wasn't just me reading that book that allowed me to get back on my feet. It was, I had a support system. And I know a lot of people don't have that support system. I know that I was in a very fortunate situation where I had teachers, coaches, like I said, family, friends, to help me.
Mhm.
And so for the thing for me is I wanted to be able to give back to those that didn't have that. And so now we donate 5% of all our proceeds to Mental Health America, which that's exactly what they do. They give back to those people that need that help, that need that immediate help. And for me, like I said, I was lucky enough to have it, but a lot of people don't. So that's one foundation of our business. Another foundation, this is kind of getting a little off topic, but since I'm talking about this, I'll bring it up. My girlfriend, she's a teacher, middle school teacher.
Mhm.
And so when COVID hit last year, a lot of these kids, especially in inner cities, they depend on meals from the schools, right? Because
Mhm.
they may only be getting dinner at home. They may be only getting lunch, whatever, or not lunch. They're at school, but you know what I mean. They don't have all three meals.
Yeah.
Um, and so we started a campaign called Kids Eat First, which we donated 20% of our proceeds to Second Harvest Heartland, which they provide emergency meals to families, right? And kids that, are going without food, right? So it's little things like that where if GhostFit can be sort of the transportation for us to help people that need help, right? Because I've been that kid, right?
Mhm.
Growing up, on poverty section 8, like a lot of things, like I see myself in them, but now I have an opportunity to give back to those, people that, I've been in their same shoes, right? So if this can be sort of a platform for me to help do that, then I feel like we're winning, right? We're doing what we're intended to do. Obviously we want to provide an awesome product with, our clothing. But like I said, from when we work with influencers, it has to be more than just the clothing, right? Everything that we do, it has to be more than just what you see on the outside, or else I feel like, you're not giving as much as you can.
Mhm.
So like I said, we want to provide an awesome, garment, but we also want to provide, people with more opportunities, whether that's, kids that need food, people that need, help with mental health. And I'm sure that it'll, lead to other things as well, down the road as we continue to, expand, working with NFL players. Maybe, we start doing camps for athletes that can't pay for it, or, just different sort of things that, help people become a better version of themselves. I look at my life and I've had so many people, not just with mental health, but growing up playing sports that helped me. Right? I didn't come from like a monetarily free family,
Mhm.
but we had a lot of people around us that supported us, and if I didn't give credit to those people, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence. So if I can kind of give that back tenfold, then I'm on the right path.
Yeah. You're just trying to be that support system for somebody else.
Exactly.
I mean, that's obviously a nice thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes you feel good too. I'm sure that there's a little bit of ego involved, right? But at the end of the day, I know that it does help, right?
Yeah. I wanted to ask you specifically about that too, because you mentioned in your what would you call that when you go to your website and it says our story?
Yeah, it's really just how we built this, why we built this, right?
How we built this
Yeah, it's a
origin story.
yeah, it's an introduction to who we are and why we are.
Well, in that you mentioned your ego, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts about that, like building that ego through high school, becoming a good athlete, and then I don't know if this will be redundant of what we kind of just talked about, but I guess I just wanted to hear your thoughts about that, like recognizing, oh, I had this ego that was unrealistic, completely tied to football. I'm so much more than football, and then proceeding forward with that. Like, was that hard to confront, and how did you handle that, I guess, and feel about it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that was that was it, right? That was all of like the shit that happened was just because of the ego. Like if I would have taken the ego out of all of it, um, I think that things would have been much different, right? I think the reason why I quit is because my ego got in the way. I think the reason why it was so hard for me to overcome it is because my ego got in the way, right? And I actually just sat down. I don't know if Ben Lieber or not. He used to be
Mm-hmm.
a linebacker for the Vikings. I just sat down with him last Friday, and we got breakfast, and we were actually talking about this because that was the first time I met him, and I was asking him about that, right? Like, when you were done playing, like how did you what did you do to like continue to be Ben, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what did that process look like? And he said, you feel lost, right? Like, I've been doing this, I've had this structure for my entire life. Like, you do feel lost. But I think what you have to realize at the same time is whatever you do, you should become attached to it in terms of like work ethic mentality, but what you do should never be who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's the case, then you are never evolving, right? So if I am just football, then that's just what I am, and I can never get any bigger than football. I can never get less than football. Like, that's just, I'm in that box now. And that's kind of like what he told me. He's like, you just have to continue to do things that drive you, because as long as you do that, you're going to affect more people. You're going to be in a better headspace. You're going to allow yourself to really flourish as a person, right? Just because you found one thing that you're good at doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you're good at. It doesn't mean that's the only thing that you can impact people with. And that's what he continues to come back to, is like, how do you impact other people? Because I think that when you do that, it leads them to want to do the same thing, right? And when you talk about like a legacy, like, that's how people remember you, because you impact people, not because you were good at football, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of really fucking good football players, but then there's some guys like Kyle Rudolph, for instance, that
Mm-hmm.
he's known for like helping the community. Like, he could have been a trash football player, but as long as he's doing what he's doing in the community, he's going to be more well known than a guy like Percy Harvin, who was crazy good. But I bet you a lot of people maybe forgot that name, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was much more talented than I would say a Kyle Rudolph was in terms of what he was able to do. But yeah, I think it's always just, I think you have to really, look yourself in the mirror and say, like, football was someone who I was. It was something that I enjoyed doing, but understand that there is bigger and better things out there. Not that football wasn't big and not that it wasn't great, but there's time limits, right? For everything, right? Football can only last for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Be as good as you can during that time. But when that runs over, now you got to find something else. Like they say, you're only as good as the last big thing that you've done, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you can't allow one thing to overmind everything else, right? So if you do this podcast and you kill it and you make $100 million from it, and then you stop when you're 40 years old, like, you got to find something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not because you're only a podcaster, but because like there's more for you to give than just having conversation with people. And I think that's, I don't know if I'm answering your question too well, but I think it's really just like understanding that you have more to give, right?
Yeah.
And that can be hard, like you said, because you get into this routine. But as long as you don't attach yourself solely to that one thing that you're doing, I think it kind of frees up your mind to say, all right, I'm willing to try something else now.
Yeah. I think you answered it well. I mean, there's no right way.
Yeah.
I just wanted to pick your brain.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I think that's awesome. And do you feel like you embody that going forward now? Like, obviously Ghost Fit's your baby, but
Yeah.
you're not Ghost Fit entirely. You know what I mean? Like, you have other things kind of you're doing.
Right. It definitely is definitely much different mindset than I had with football, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm a lot more open-minded now. about things, right? I will say though, it is hard to disconnect yourself at times,
Hmm.
right? Like you get joy like seeing people wearing your apparel and this and that, right? So I think that at times there will always be that, and I don't think that that is necessarily wrong either, right? Like us, me associating myself with ghosts for like I'm going to do that because I created it as my baby.
Hmm.
I don't think that that's necessarily bad. I think what's bad is when you quit or when you decide to do something else and you just constantly compare it to Ghostfit, right? So if I were to, like I said, when I quit football, right, everything in my life I was comparing to football because that's where my identity was, right?
Hmm.
I think if I can let that go and say, all right, I was doing Ghostfit, that was awesome. Say I sold it, say whatever happens, who knows? As long as I don't compare myself to the past and rather focus on the future and like, okay, how can I build something better? How can I do something different? How can I help more people? Like, I think that's where it becomes imperative, where you can't associate your identity with that one thing. Because truth be told, like as a business owner, I mean, it's not a 9 to 5, right? It's a 9 to 9, right? 9
Yeah.
a.m. to 9 a.m., right? You're working around the clock. You kind of do have to, put everything into it, but
Hmm.
you have to understand as well that um, it's a hobby. It may be a profession, but it really is a hobby. It's not like I was born to do this, so to speak. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't, but there's more that I can give. So as long as I don't associate myself with just Ghostfit for the rest of my life, then I think that's where like that learning happens.
Yeah, diversify like your own personality, like identities, if that even makes sense. Like attaching yourself to things.
Right.
Kind of sounds like what you're
100%.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think when you can, what I've really learned is what you should attach yourself to is the values through it all,
Hmm.
right? So like when I look at football, like football taught me hard work, perseverance, right? How to work with like teams, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Looking back, that's what I should have attached who I was as a person to,
Yeah.
because that can stretch through business, through football, through relationships, right? But instead of doing that, I took a more broad sense and just said, I'm attached to football. Now that I don't have football, who am I as a person, right? But if I attach myself to the values that I learned through football, now I can take those values and apply them to something else.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what I do with the Ghost Fit, right? Like that's what I'm doing with Ghost Fit. And when Ghost Fit's over, when this run is over, at some point it's going to be, I'm going to take the values that I learned from football and from life and from Ghost Fit. I'm going to take that and apply them to something else.
Hmm.
Like I said, I think that's where the learning happens, that you attach yourself to the values. And that's why I think it's important to be open and honest, right? Because some people's values are kind of horseshit and they try to act like those aren't their values. But at the end of the day, like you're always going to go back to your root, right? If your,
Hmm.
values are horseshit, you're going to go back to those eventually. But if your values are genuine and good, then you're going to go back to those as well. So as long as you can like keep that in the back of your mind, like that's, I want to attach this to whatever I do. And you're okay and you're accepting of that, like that's where you can flourish in whatever you do, right?
Yeah. And do you feel like, because clearly you seem I guess conscious of everything you're speaking about right now, and the way you're thinking about exactly what we're talking about, attaching your personality with say ghost fit or football, that was not, you never had those thoughts before,
No.
not going well at the U.
No, not at all. I mean, like I said, it was 100% on the outcome of what happened on that day, right? If I had a
Yeah.
bad practice, it was I suck at football. I
Yeah.
suck at football while I'm football, right? So it's like this repeated cycle of nonsense, really. And obviously, like everyone is gonna have shitty days. Everyone's gonna have like bad thoughts. Like I'm not saying that you will never have that, but
Yeah.
I think as long as you reinforce yourself with this is why I'm doing this and these are my values behind it, like you're setting yourself up to be more successful than not. I
Mhm.
guess that's really the punchline behind it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I believe that too. I believe that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Um, Sorry, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say I think that that's really what has helped me the most is when you understand that, the reason why people get let down is because their thoughts don't meet reality, right? So
Yeah.
like me in football, like my thoughts, my idea of what the reality was going to be, they didn't connect. So you give yourself this false sense of hope. But with Ghost Fit, when I think about these are our values, as long as I meet our values, right, then that, which is something that I can control, then that part of my fulfillment is always going to be met. You know what I mean? Because I have that conscious effort, right, to be able to control that, right? But if all I do is focus, if we don't get $1 million in sales, then it's a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can have the best product, the most needed product, the most niche product, and no one could still buy it for some reason, but I can't really control that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what I was doing with football, right? If I don't succeed at football, then I'm shit.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can control. And I think that it just goes back to, right, control what you can control, allow yourself to flourish in that sense. Because then when your expectations, I don't want to say you shouldn't have any expectations. That's not what I'm trying to get at all. But a lot of people force like their happiness or their success on things that they can't control.
Mm-hmm.
And that might work for a little bit, right? Like in high school, that worked for me. But at some point, that's going to get tested. And in order to combat that test, like you have to focus on those things that like that you really believe in, which is working hard, which I didn't fucking focus on that, which is being a great teammate, which is being a great leader. Like if I would have just focused solely on that
Mm-hmm.
and didn't give a fuck about whether the coach is going to put me in or not, the coach would have put me in. You know what I mean? Because I would have been that player that I needed to be, rather than focusing, I didn't get in as much as I wanted to in practice today. Now I'm just going to sulk in it. Like that's like the total opposite mindset that I should have had.
Yeah. It's good that it's growth.
It is.
That you're there now. And that's good.
Right.
We're obviously still young. You're still young. Like now you're a business owner and you can apply all that shit to your company.
Man, that's the goal every day. That it definitely is a goal.
Were you ever going to go back? Or when you quit you were done?
At the University of Minnesota?
Yeah. Like, did you ever a week later think, maybe I should go back?
Yeah. So it was in spring of 2015 when I quit. Ended up taking a visit to North Dakota. I think they're like the Fighting Hawks now.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up giving me a scholarship there, and I said no to it. Which, yeah, that was I just didn't want to be in North Dakota. I think I like being closer to the city.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, said no to that. On my drive back, I called one of my GAs, which is a general assistant, or I think that's what it is. Yeah. Anyway, they're basically like a person that just graduated college, and they were helping, with the team. Mm-hmm. And I called him and I told him like, hey, like I just said no to North Dakota. I was really close to this guy, and he's like, well, if you want, he's like, I can talk with Kill, we can get you back on the team. And I thought about it for like a day or so, and I was like, no, like I already quit once, like I can't go back now.
Yeah.
That's a bad look. So I did have that thought process for a little bit, but I think I came to a realization, like there's a reason why I quit, right? And I had more learning to do, and I think I understood that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to put myself in a position where I was going to go back, right? Yeah. And like revert back to my old thought process. I knew that I needed time to like grow as a person, mature as a person. So, I think that I made the right decision with that.
Yeah. Tough one. But obviously I came out for the better on the other side.
Right.
And that's the thing. You never know. Maybe it wouldn't have worked out even if you went back, and then you never would have even learned this. And then what are you going to be doing now?
Exactly. And I enjoyed my time at St. Thomas. I was able to play football there for 4 years, and I had, I had a really good career there. Mm-hmm. So, I'm satisfied with how my career ended there.
Did you play? Because I went to St. John's. I don't know if you know that. You keep trying to be my rival.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. Were you on the team when they played at the TCF? Or not TCF,
yeah.
at the Was it TZ at the Twin Stadium?
Yep. Yeah.
You're on
At gosh, what is that? Yeah, I played at. Yeah, so I
Target
played
Field.
Target Field.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I played the year before that. We played at St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there that year?
Yeah, for sure. I think,
2016. Yeah.
yeah, I think that was my freshman year, which you probably would have been at the U at that point, was at St. Thomas. Sophomore year was at St. John's. And I think the next year was at Target Field.
Yeah. Do you remember how that game ended your sophomore year?
No. There's a lot of drinking going on.
Yeah. That was actually my first Tommy Johnny game, and fuck, I think
Did you make good plays?
what's up?
Did you make some good plays?
Well, we sealed it with the touchdown at the end with like fucking like a minute left or something.
Oh, God damn it.
But no, yeah. So I played in the 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019 Tommy Johnny game.
Okay.
Those games were absolutely insane.
Bro, they're so fun. Isn't it crazy how many people you get at a D3 game?
Yeah, I think. Well, at the Twin Stadium, I think we had like 30-something thousand there, like
Yeah.
32, 38, something like that. Yeah, it was wild.
It's crazy. And because I know St. Thomas got pulled, which is I think stupid. But are they still playing St. John's? I don't even know.
No, they're done now. So they're playing like
Yeah.
a Division I schedule now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
For both, like just the state, like that game. I don't know if it was just because we were there at that time, but even the last couple of years going to Target Field and all that, it seemed like it's a really old tradition that was even just still getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
100%. I mean, that's the biggest. I mean, if you look at every Division II game in Minnesota,
Yeah.
like that's the biggest behind the Gophers. That's the biggest football game in Minnesota. Like that's what's crazy about it. I mean, obviously not the Vikings, but like you have the Vikings, you have the Gophers, and then you have Tommy Johnny.
Yeah,
Like
two D3 schools.
Yeah, like those are the three biggest, football events every single year.
And so did you play? God damn, that's unfortunate. Yeah. I thought they would still try to do Tommy Johnny, but yeah, they probably just can't, huh?
Yeah, I mean, well, now St. Thomas is going to have Division I recruits, so I mean, it wouldn't be as fair, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
You wouldn't have the Gophers play against St. John's. That doesn't even make sense.
Did you play there? Like, was that a future plan that was decided, or was it the next season that then they switched conferences and moved up?
So I ended in 2019, and then 2020 is when they switched.
And then when they switched,
But in 2020, they didn't have a season because of COVID. Yeah.
So their first D1 season got canceled.
Right. Well, no. So 2020, they still would have played in like the MIAC. That's the conference that they're in right now. So they would have had 1 year to still play, and then this upcoming year would be their first Division I year.
Damn.
Yeah.
So they ended Tommy Johnny, and then COVID took out the last one ever.
Yeah.
Goddamn COVID.
Yeah. So the last Tommy Johnny was at the we played at what's that soccer stadium? The United Allianz Field.
Did you?
Yeah.
The last one I was at must have been 2018. I don't know. I just know we won.
I fumbled in that game on like the one.
Did you? I didn't even go to the game, man. I was at the tailgate the whole time.
That's fun too.
I'm not gonna. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, my freshman year we won at St. Thomas, and that was crazy. We stormed the field, but then I literally think my sophomore and junior year, you guys won. And I forget now, because I took a semester off to move out here at one point, so I had the same amount of semesters. I only did 8 semesters of school, but I had to go back for like an extra kind of semester type deal.
Yeah.
And that year, I forget which year it was. One of those 2 years we won, but you guys might have won 3 in a row. And then we won like my first month or something, or my last month of school or something. Like
we won 2016, 2017, and then lost 2018, 2019.
Okay.
So we won 2 in a row and then lost 2 in a row.
So it's crazy. And then they kick you out.
Yeah, no, and I don't know if it was just a football thing, because like, so our track team, I think, had won like 15 years in a row or some shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You guys' like attendance is going up, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
I think that's what it was.
It's a lot more. St. John's, I honestly think, was declining a little bit. I'd hear about that. I think St. Ben's was increasing, but St. John's I think was declining a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that worked. But it was, I mean, that's like I think that was the first time in history that a team went from Division 3 to Division 1, like because they got kicked out.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of that. It just seems weird.
Yeah,
I don't know. How was playing at Allianz?
dude, that was like, okay, so there's a lot more people at Target Field. Not, I
Yeah,
mean, there was still like 20 something thousand at Allianz.
yeah,
But the thing about Target Field, okay, so the way that a baseball field is set up is it's meant for baseball, not for
yeah.
football, right? But Allianz Field is a soccer field, so it's basically meant for a football game.
Mm-hmm.
Like the atmosphere there was just
Sick.
like insane. Like I just remember walking out. So I was a captain that game.
Yeah.
So we were like the first ones out. And like I just remember like looking around and I was like, holy shit, this is insane. And like you walk out and like half of the stands are, purple and the other half is red. And like, so you walk out and like behind us is like all of our fans and they're all cheering. Then you look across and everyone else is booing. It was pretty insane.
Bro, that had to be so fun.
And then we went out there for the coin flip. And yeah, so the way that Allianz is like built, they have, I forget what they call them, but like, so in soccer, they have basically like this big ass wall where our student section is. And obviously, so like in a stadium, there's like like a certain level incline, right? But this wall is basically like straight up and down. Like you can't sit, like you're standing and there's like handrails. It's just like this huge fucking wall. And I just remember like we were facing them and I was, looking at our student section. I was like, this is unreal. Like this is absolutely insane. Like there's just thousands of people that are just standing, staring at you. So in soccer, so it's right behind the opposing team's goal because it's supposed to like intimidate them. You know what I mean? Like a bunch of like, fans, and it's supposed to be like resemble like this big wall that you can't get past. And so that's how they built Allianz Field as well. And it was unreal.
That had to be so much fun. Yeah. I'm glad you got that experience because you probably obviously pictured that with the U.
Yeah.
Whatever had the experience you had there, and then you probably wouldn't think that I'm going to go to a D3 school and have that type of experience, but that's what was unique about those games. St. John, St. Thomas games were just crazy.
Did you know any of the guys on St. John's football team?
Yeah, not super well though. I was going to play there myself, but I decided not to when I got there and just never went back to it.
Did I tell you, did you know that I was there for 2 weeks?
In St. John's?
So one of my good friends played on the football team there. And so like I said, after my freshman year, quit football, went to UND. I was gonna took a visit up there, said no. Then that next year I went back to the University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Well, in August before school started, I went up to St. John's and I was actually in camp. I was in football camp. It was like two days before the season was going to start. So I was there for like 2 weeks, basically living in the dorms, on the team. And I was like, dude, I cannot be here. Packed my shit up, left, went to U. Luckily, St. John's started like a week before the U did. So we were already like a week into class. Like I was like a fucking full-on student at St. John's. Packed my stuff up. I had like 2 days before classes started at the U. Went to the U for another semester, and then that's when I ended up transferring to St. Thomas. So I knew it was kind of weird because I knew all the guys really, really well at St. John's, and then the next year
you played them.
Yeah. So I don't think a lot of people know about that.
No, I didn't know that. Wait.
Yeah.
So I knew Will Galach a little bit.
He's a baller.
He did really well, yeah. That's what I mean. We were drinking too much. I'm a football fan. That shows how much drinking happens at those games. Yeah. I love football, played football, and I barely watch those games. I barely remember.
The crazy thing is, and I've never seen this at any other like Division 3 or really any other sporting event, is that when we would play at St. John's, you guys use your gymnasium as like a drunk tank. So like if people got too drunk, we would throw them into the gym. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but
Oh,
I believe that because it's right behind the student section. So they
yeah,
probably
yeah,
just drag them back there.
yeah, they'd put them in there and like allow them to like sober up enough.
Oh my god. Yeah, we do things a little different. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere, so like
Yeah.
life safety is the police, but they're not real police. So you just do whatever the fuck you want, and then every once in a while, if it gets crazy, they'll call the actual police, and then
Oh, I'm sure.
then
I'm sure.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, they were so fun. And when you guys would come to, especially our little campus, it's obviously not a big campus. Half the campus is the fucking football stadium.
Mhm.
It was just packed with people, and that was always so fun.
So, yeah, that's I like everyone always says like, what's like the best atmosphere? I would say, gosh, so I would typically say that it was Allianz Field, and maybe it still is, but there's no other feeling like playing at St. John's. Like the fans are literally on top of you. People are
Gagliardi Stadium.
dude, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah. See, it's just surprising. I guess it is to me. I never thought I would go there. It kind of came up late my senior year, but going there and yeah, seeing just even thinking now, like it's a D3 school and yeah, having 10,000, 15, 20,000 people at a football game is just like that's small D1 level shit.
Right.
Even like the Gophers, what would the Gophers get when they were playing at TCF? What did they
Yeah, like 40.
40? Yeah. And there's this little school that's got like 20.
Right. Well, the thing too is about, so when you think about Division One, like I said, I mean, everything about Division One is really like a business, right? So
Yeah.
even, let's say like, there's 40,000 people, but 10,000 of them are, people that have had, tickets for, 50 years, right? It just kind of like ran in the family.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say some of those Tommy Johnny games are louder than Gopher games, just because, you obviously have like the drunk college student that Gopher games, but then you have, older people, you have people that, just, have season tickets, right? Like Tommy Johnny, if you were at the game, like you were going to be fucking screaming it.
Yeah.
Like it was just absolutely insane.
God, that's a bummer, dude. As
Yeah.
alumni now, like you always think, oh, I'm going to go to this forever. And now I'm just realizing right now that's not going to happen.
You may go back, who knows, but
No, but the specific Tommy,
oh, true. Yeah.
that
Oh, I
game,
didn't
it's
even
not a
think
game.
about that. Yeah, there's no more Tommy Johnnies. Yeah, that's fuck. I guess I haven't even really thought about that too much.
That
Yeah.
sucks. I don't know what they're going to do now. I think
Guess
some
I'm
of
glad-
what's that?
I said I guess I'm glad that I was able to be a part of the last one, but
Yeah,
maybe
I
those
would be too.
Sure.
I think some of the people were worried at St. John's, like, okay, we could compete with them. Like, if they're getting kicked out, are they getting kicked out next? Like, what the hell?
Right. Like who's next now?
Yeah, we don't have the size of the school and all that. So I don't really know if it would make sense if that was a big part of it. But so if that was the reason, then I don't think they would. But football wise or just sports wise, it was like, well, we could do that. So yeah, they're just gonna get us next because all the other teams do kind of suck.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have a few other teams that are, semi-competitive.
Yeah, would it be Bethel?
Yeah, Bethel, they're a team that's, usually pretty good.
Yeah.
Then you got Concordia, Moorhead, that's usually pretty good. But besides that,
It'd be like 70 to 14 games.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was for you guys as well.
We put up 99 versus one team.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I mean,
what's that?
There's a big discrepancy from the top to the bottom of that conference.
There really is. So
Yeah.
I guess maybe it makes sense, but it still sucks.
No, like you said, that game was absolutely insane. So
what do you got coming up with Ghost Fit, man? Anything you want to mention that's big that's coming?
yeah, I mean, like I said, so we just paid our taxes today, but we're gonna have our spring line coming out. So that's our rival series. Basically, we got the name because anything that you have in your closet this series is for sure going to rival it. So we have new shirts, we have stringers, we have joggers, we have shorts. Man, it's a really good series for us. I look at, when I look at, series that we come out with, I look at the practicality of it. Obviously it's spring, people are going to start wearing this kind of attire. but the fabric that we use, we've never used before. And it's literally like the softest shit that we've ever found so far. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And how can people access that? Just through Instagram? Because you have your website on your Instagram.
Yeah. So, our Instagram is at GhostFit Clothing. Our website is ghostfitapparel.com. We have Twitter as well, GhostFit Apparel. So yeah, any of like the major social networks, you can find us on there.
Dope, man. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate
Thanks
this.
for having me. I love these authentic conversations. It's refreshing.
It is nice. It was nice meeting you, man.
Awesome. You as well. I'm sure that we'll stay in contact.
Yes. Good luck with everything. And I'll be looking to see who this NFL guy is. It's still on my mind.
Awesome, man. Well, like I said, I'm sure that we'll talk soon. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good one.
I see you, man.
See everybody.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.